like last week, guys, and the week before, we have videos that we would like to introduce. Just like conversations that kind of make our podcast a little bit more grounded in the relationship, careers, fatherhood, and passions part. So with this, we got another video by our dog and hopefully future guest, Kier Gaines. So shout out to him. This is the video. We've sent it over to Keith so we all can digest it together. And you guys are here now for the first time.
Men are not allowed to have full access to their feelings. Can I give y'all a great example of that? We in the house, me and my wife, she's pregnant, and my, at the time, 4-year-old daughter sleeping in her room. It's 3 a.m. And we hear woo, 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 woo. The alarm goes off in my house. So I pop up. I got the blaming on me, you know. I got 30 in the mag. Boom, hit that charger. Get it, I'm ready. I go downstairs and check all the rooms. My heart beating like crazy. I check the living room, good. I check the kitchen, we good. I walk into the basement, man. My finger trembling a little bit, but I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Go to the basement, I peek around the last corner. The wind opened the door to the garage, messed up the sensor. Closed the joint, locked it. Whew. Sat down for a little bit, let my nerves chill. And I said, wait a minute, I just realized something. Fear is a human emotion. 2 of us were scared that night. Only one of us had permission to feel that. I couldn't be afraid to the point of inaction. Because if all of us were murdered in that house, first thing people would have said is why he didn't protect his family? Why he allowed those things to happen to him? What happens to a human being who's not allowed to feel the full scope of their emotions? How does that work? How do you function?
I know, guys, that's kind of like probably for a lot of people listening and watching, that was a harsh change from what we were just talking about, super hype about sports, to that conversation. But it is something that we do need to talk, and why not a better time than when we're having shop talk to actually ask the question of what is that like for us? I know how I answer that question as a vet, as an ex-vet, so I know how I would handle situations like that. And my wife, I've like prompted her and let her know words or signals or like calls that I would do if things are south. Like if we're in the mall and shit is happening in the mall, my natural instinct is to make sure that my wife and my daughter get out to their car, and as soon as they're in safety, I'm back in there to make sure I can get somebody else out. That's just the idiotic military fight for our country training that I have. So I know that my sense of release in those moments of being scared as shit is only once the job is done. Just like how he said he sat down and he was able to do it. But like, kind of like explain to the people, Keith, like when you saw that video, did anything come back to you that you might have went through, or like even scenarioed in your head to where you had to play it out like that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll be honest, I've never been, not that I can think of, and I've given this some thought. So I kind of had 2 thoughts on it. But to answer your question, I've never been in a situation where I've necessarily had to, it's been that like intense, right? But I do remember, when our girls were younger, we were down at the Shed Aquarium, down in Chicago.
Okay.
And I remember the thing that I just got really mad because like my little ones would be up against the glass, and you'd get like a grown man that would just like disregard that your kid is there and like bump into him and stuff. And so many times I just wanted to like go up and like grab somebody and be like, do you really need to see this more than my kid does? Mm-hmm. Right? Like that was what I wanted to say, but I dealt with it like differently. Right. But that was the closest I could think of. So I guess that's the way I would answer the question. The one thing I thought about, and I texted De'Meco that I had like a different, that video, like, brought a different thought process out to me. It's just around the way that like people, especially men, like kind of suppress or are conditioned to suppress emotion. And I don't mind sharing this. So like, I'm really in the process of working on the relationship with my father, and my father has a real difficult time, like, showing genuine love and emotion. Mm-hmm. I don't think that my dad doesn't love me or love my kids, but like the expectation I have of him to like how he should love on my kids And when I don't see that, I get super protective of it. Or when I see, like, it just made me think about how my dad was always kind of a cold, like stoic. I go to work, I provide for the family. That's what my role is. I'm not here to be your best friend. I'm not here to, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
my job is to work and put food on the table, right? And he just like leaned into that. I will admit he was like a military guy though too, right? So like he was overseas, and so for me, uh, I chose to raise my family differently,
Mhm.
despite kind of being conditioned to that, right?
Oh, for
Like that
sure.
was how I grew up. So that's what I thought about with the video. Not to like derail kind of what the question was, but I watched the video and I thought about the conditioning, and it just made me think about uh, how different I am than my own father, and just in terms of the way that I express love with my children. And I do get angry with him at times for not showing me the love that I feel like I deserved, so to speak, or
Hell yeah.
like or I would have wanted. But as I'm now, an older adult, and he's becoming more of like our family again. I do see certain things like in him start to crack that I didn't see like a decade ago or 20 years ago for sure. Like he's being more present. He's asking things about the girls that I didn't get before. I'd love it to be quicker, but that's kind of when I watched that video, that's what I thought about was just I was conditioned by my dad, but chose to do something different.
And a lot of us do. And I think it's fucking sick in a good way. Like, fucking
Yeah.
sick, dude. Like, when you hear it, guys. But it's
Yeah.
sick that we have seen it and changed the narrative as fathers. Like,
Yeah.
um, I don't think I talked about it, but my father passed away a couple of years ago, and I found out last year. And
Mhm.
I never had a real relationship with my dad, so it was a weird process, and still is. Still like talking to my therapist about
Yeah.
these wild changes. But that was something that I can vividly remember in a sense of like what you're talking about, Keith. Like my father and I's last relationship, um, or last conversation was he was like, I heard you had a kid. I want to be in my baby's life. And I was like, motherfucker, you weren't in my life. So why would I allow you that access to her to break her fucking heart the way you did mine? Like,
Right.
show up for me for a little bit and then you could show up for her. But until then, nigga, like, move on.
Yeah.
Um, and went into an argument. He said a lot of shit. I said a lot of shit. I feel terrible about it now that I can't talk to him about it. But no, I agree with you on that. It's like even with my mom, and I know you'll listen to this right now, Darlene. Like Penelope knows about you guys, but until you put forth effort to her, I'm not gonna allow access to my kid for people who don't want access to her. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You're like, I don't know if that like made sense, but like it made sense to me when I sit and I felt that shit. Um, but De'Meco, like, how did you? First of all, phenomenal answer. You never have to apologize. Also about like, oh well, this might have been no. Like you saw the video. Give us what you took from it, and we're
Yeah.
so grateful that you did. De'Meco, what did you take from it when you watched it?
The way that I looked at it, similar to yours, Keith, of that conditioning of really feeling like in that moment for Kier Gaines' video, hey, I was the only one allowed to feel fear, or feel afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about conversations I've had with Blair off camera, obviously conversations we've had on the show, the moments of feeling that anxiety that I've kind of dealt with, of feeling the, hey, I need to provide for my family, or I want to make sure Mayari is resilient or determined or not spoiled, all those things. Like, I feel like I'm the only one feeling them. I know Kate feels them, but she feels them differently than me. So it does feel like it's very lonely because it's based on my own life experiences. So I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
want Mayari to be resilient because in these moments that I had, I needed that resiliency. Kate thinks about it in a different sense, which is completely warranted, and that's what makes Mayari a whole person, is that she's going to get both from both sides.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I can't really talk to my dad. I can't really talk to my siblings because, again, all of our life experiences are different. So it creates a bias of how you would interpret the video that we just watched, as we can tell with us three talking about it very differently.
Yeah.
It's shameless plug, but that's why I love this show, because I can talk about it freely, and
Ain't no shame, baby.
Exactly. And I know like you guys are going to critique it in a way that like, hey, I'm going to provide value to however my friend De'Meco's understanding this or whatever have you. So again, it was really interesting to hear you kind of expound on your relationship with your dad, Keith, and like trying to ingratiate him back into the family and all those things. That's kind of where I'm at. My dad was very similar to you, like very like stoic, very like, hey, this is what he would tell me. De'Meco, you want some cookies? You call your mom.
Yep.
You want to get shit done? You come to me. And I'm like, so I knew that.
Yep.
So I knew that about my dad. And so I knew if I wanted to cross the finish line for something, I would go to my dad because I'm like, he helps me finish the job. But like, bro, we're not doing that here with Mayari. Like, she'll finish the job. I know it. I know she will. But like, there are definitely things that I feel like I missed out on. And so I try to fill and provide that to Mayari. So that's not her origin story. She'll get her resiliency some other way, but it won't be because I made her walk to school uphill both ways, whatever. Like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Like, we're not doing that. Also, great video recommendation. This is a great conversation.
Yes, I'm good, man. I'm good at what I do. Journalism, baby. But no, I think the biggest thing is like men, like Keith said, we are conditioned. I don't know where it started. Probably caveman times, and it's just been in our blood since then. But we have been conditioned to put away certain things. So we take especially if you're militant, you take the emotion out of every decision that you make because there is no gray. There should be a black and a white, because that's how you get things done. You get things done with black and white. So it's an odd position to be in, because right now men are being called sassy guys or sassy boys or whatever the case may be, because we're starting to speak more into the emotional state of how we feel and how we think and operate. And it could turn a lot of people off, but it's healthy. It's a very healthy thing to do for men to be able to have a platform where, not even a platform, have a conversation with another dude, one of your boys that you trust and you love, and you're like, hey man, like this shit is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then he's like, not like, hey, nut up, nigga. He's like, hey bro, like expand upon that. Like, what does weird mean to you? Oh, I feel like I couldn't feel this. Hey dog, you can. It's just, you gotta, I mean, like in the video, like we have to do it in a different area. But like what I've noticed is it's transparency. Transparency is saying the thing that needs to be said when nobody cares. Not when it fits you best, but when, like, at the very beginning. Hey, this, like when I told my wife, it's like, hey baby girl, like I can't sleep at times. The military, like literally my conditioning in the military is if I'm up, I'm all the way up. Can't sleep. Right. I live in a space where when I was back east, attacks randomly. I was in the gang, so I was stupid. So people just didn't like you because you wore a color. So it's like, bro, any restaurant we go into, I know 6 exits. I know it's 2 in the back. I know it's 2 right here. Like, can we get the table where we're in the booth where I have a corner so nobody's on my backside, on my right side, so I can always see what's going on. Like, she's like, now she knows it, and not like I've conditioned her, but like she understands. To her, it's an irrational fear because we live in Eugene, fucking Oregon.
Right.
It's an irrational fear for me to walk outside my house with my gun every day. To her, and it's very true. But she understands her husband is still a certain way. So she's like, when we go to a restaurant, she's like, the lady's like, hey, so we got this table here. I'm always like, well, can we get that booth? I'm like, yeah, we can. Yeah. And it's because, I'll just go along with it, but I'll be sitting there eating dinner like this the entire time, left and right. And she's like, let's just fucking enjoy Texas Roadhouse, my nigga. Just sit down.
Hey, kudos to her for recognizing that, though, and being willing to like take the initiative to like, hey, I'm not going to make this be his thing.
Yeah, for sure. I love it for that.
Investment in your feelings, which is fantastic.
Come and take a look behind the scenes. See who's been a flying superhero every day. I'm on the grind. I won't never ever take a day off. Everything I do is gonna pay off. Your little father time with me. With me. You should try a little father time with me. With me.